One of the biggest draws towards Scorn is its world design, where half of it seems to be this visceral, fleshy hellscape, and the other half seems to be this Gigerian nightmare straight out of the Necronomicon. And all of it seems to involve those two extremes merged together in some unholy union. It's no wonder it piqued a lot of gamers' interests. Where so many horror games today seem to involve haunted houses, and abandoned asylums, and quaint American towns, and even abandoned space stations with a more generic future aesthetic seen in tons of games these days. Something like this is simply unique. It drives curiosity, and the fact that so little is actually known about it and its world drives that even further for people. Unfortunately, the devs are incredibly secretive about the game, its world, in fear of divulging any spoilers. And the game itself isn't going to have a standard story where instead of having dialogue and cutscenes, you'll find everything out through just the environment and general gameplay. And yet, a few important and I think significant observations can still be made using the material we have available to us right now. Before I get into that, I want to establish some core beliefs that I have about the game and its universe that will serve as a foundation for every further observation. Number 1. This game takes place on an alien planet and not a future Earth corrupted by biological science gone mad. And by extension, the denizens of this universe, including the main character, are not related to anything on Earth or even human, as in the main character's case. This is despite them having names like Worm, Kiwi, and Bear in the game's files. With that in mind, let's delve in and see what we can find out about this incredibly uncomfortable looking world Ebb Software has shown us. Even the small details matter when talking about the differences between this world and ours. For example, have you noticed that all of the ways to get up and down in the Scorn levels involve ramps? In fact, it doesn't seem like these people have invented stairs at all. While Scorn Guy isn't able to jump, that's not a requirement to use stairs in a video game, so that can't be the reason. But it seems odd that for high inclines and low, these guys just never figured out how to make stairs, or just don't use them. Another thing that seems to have been missed in their technological advancements are windows. At least the kind we're used to. It doesn't seem as if glass has been invented or utilized for them. Instead, they rely more on these eye-shaped holes. You can even see one sort of in the background past that door there in one of the preview pictures posted on their Kickstarter. So that seems to be one of the things that has been standardized in the Scorn world. And that's another very important thing to take note of. No matter how weird the world of Scorn looks, it's not random. Deliberate thought was put into designing this place, and standardization is one big clue to that. All the doors, for example, are essentially the same. They have a standard for what doors exist in this underground facility. The fact that they're all roughly the size of Scorn Guy to allow him to comfortably go in and out seems to also indicate that whatever species Scorn Guy is a part of are the ones who built this place. It also applies to the buttons used to raise bridges and elevators, as well as consoles used to manipulate different machinery. Recently, the developers have posted this image on their Kickstarter showing some concept art for that console. The design of it is a little bit different than the one we've seen in the demo and gameplay trailer. In the gameplay trailer, there's 3 lights, and they're all toward the left and more center of the machine. And there's also this sort of 4-pointed star-shaped device more on top of it, while here the star-shaped device seems to be in the center and have some sort of outcrop, some little lever to manipulate on it, and only one light, the spherical one that sort of turns when you press the correct button on the top right of the console. However, in not only this one, but the other 2 ones shown, it seems that to utilize it, you need to shove both arms into it. There's 2 openings for it. And that doesn't just apply to this one, but also this machine with 1 opening. Even as far back as the pre-alpha trailer, the machines needed Scorn Guy to shove his arm into them in order to even use them. So how do you manipulate technology in the Scorn universe? So far, it's push some buttons and shove your limbs way far into them. However, fair's fair, in another concept art posted on their Kickstarter recently, they do show that the Scorn people have figured out levers. This also gives a better view of the sort of thing you can pull on in the star-shaped part of the standard console that I talked about earlier. So that's what I mean when I talk about standardization. Another difference between their world and ours, their kind of thinking and ours, is a general lack of railings when it comes to areas with just large drops. Indeed, maybe all of this biological crap could have been avoided if they followed OSHA standards, but whether a short drop down that's at most a few feet or a story, or just a total plummet to the abyss, they don't seem too keen on using railings as far as most of the material goes. And yes, there's these sort of small, tiny wall in a few areas, but that seems to be more based on preventing the player from moving forward, rather than Scorn guys giving any thought to their own safety. Granted, it doesn't really matter since you're unable to walk off of ledges, but come on, Scorn guys, do you not see how far down that drop is? Just a little bit of consideration is all we're asking. The closest I've seen them using actual railings are from this recent concept art, and that's entirely dependent on how big Scorn Guy is relative to this environment. I'm assuming he's small enough to fit through that opening that's supposed to rotate down, but there's nothing really known at the moment. There's also this bit of concept art also posted on their Kickstarter, but again, it's not known how large Scorn Guy is relative to this wall. However unsafe these people are, one cannot deny that they've become masters at engineering and architecture. They've managed to build magnificent complex structures, hulking machinery, giant facilities. How they do it is still unknown. But we do know that they seem to prefer metal and stone and biological material rather than some more conventional materials on Earth like wood or glass. In fact, both materials seem to be outright non-existent in their world, which is another thing that lets me think, or gets me thinking that this place isn't anywhere remotely related to our planet. It's still unknown if everything in their universe is designed with a completely utilitarian mindset, or if they have an eye for aesthetic and design, because despite the H.R. Giger style, one could argue that's just the most efficient architecture or design they've come up with to suit their purposes for the facilities and the machines and whatever Scorn guys do on that strange world. The Scorn people don't seem to have much regard for where they put all the tubing. They'll dump it on the floor for them to trip over. They'll run it along the walls or into various pipes, over the ceiling and somewhat draping down. It doesn't really seem to matter much to them, and I'm wondering if that's just a result of everything going to hell, or if it was like that when this place was in its prime. But for a bunch of creatures who do seem to have a lot of thought put into the design of their facility and all the machines in it, they seem to be pretty damn sloppy when it comes to the safety hazards. But isn't that how they always are? Something they do share with us on a design level is symmetry. The Scorn people seem to try to design their machines to be the same on both the left and right side. While not everything is symmetrical, that's also the case on Earth. But the fact that they do try to design things this way, I think might hint to them having some eye for aesthetics, but nothing's known for sure. Despite all of these observations, a lot of questions remain. How hostile is the environment to them? All the scenes we've seen of the outside shows an absolute wasteland. One might even venture to guess it's irradiated, and the decaying carcass of a bear laying down on the outside in the start of the gameplay trailer sort of hints to that as well. However, there are a bunch of their corpses laying around inside the facility too. But is the entire planet like this? What exactly are their buildings for? Do they have museums, churches, government offices, opera houses, regular houses, any sort of equivalent to what we have here on Earth? How did they build everything? How did they communicate what needs to be said in order to coordinate the construction of all of this? Yes, the developer said there's no speaking and text in the game, but that might just mean regular human language and writing. Do the Scorn people have writing? How do they communicate to one another? There's a lot we just don't know about this world and its citizens, and that's what makes it so interesting to me. Hopefully, as the months go on and they actually update with the months, we'll learn more about this weird world of Scorn. But until then, I hope this video gave you a little bit of an idea of what this place is like that you might not have thought of when going through the demo yourself or watching the trailers. So like always, I hope this video was good. I hope I entertained you or otherwise gave you something to think about. Take care.